Thank you, President Osborn, for being on the show today.
Nice to be here.
Well, first of all, question I've had for a long time: what really is a liberal arts college? Because, like when we say liberal, like is it really like California liberal? I mean, because can you have a liberal arts college in, say, Texas?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has nothing to do with liberal and conservative in politics. Liberal arts typically refers to certain subject areas that have been typically seen as liberal arts, like history and English, those kinds of classes, and the sciences. But at PUC, we say we're a liberal arts college, but in reality, most of our majors don't take liberal arts majors.
Okay.
You know, nursing is not liberal arts. Business is not. Becoming a teacher is not. So some of our biggest programs have nothing to do with the liberal arts, but through the general education classes, we try to teach a liberal arts program so that every student, even if they're not a liberal arts major in terms of the class they're going to take, are going to get a well-rounded education in a lot of different areas. And so you're liberally educated in a wide variety of areas.
Okay, so it's all right.
Yeah, so it is true. It's true that, you know, even in a red state that supported George Bush, you can have a liberal studies program.
Whoa, careful. All right. Now, a question that students have asked to me, and what I'd like to paraphrase and throw out here is, what are you, as president of PUC, doing to, say, make PUC like a Harvard or a Duke University? Do we need to have some sort of scandal? Or maybe they're talking about like the standards. What are we doing to up the standards of PUC?
I think we've always had really high academic standards, and that's one of the things we're well known for being academically outstanding among not only the Adventist world, but obviously our rankings as the number 4 ranked college in California in our category in U.S. News & World Report, number 14 for the whole West Coast, illustrates that people understand that we have an academically outstanding program. But you know, I spent 2 weeks at Harvard this summer.
Oh yeah?
I did. I was at Institute for Educational Management with 100 provosts, presidents, chancellors, general counsels, and I actually had to live in the Harvard dormitory for 2 weeks. And let me tell you, if you think it was luxurious, it was about as bad as it gets.
Really?
Oh, at the fancy Harvard? Yes. It was as Spartan, plain as you can imagine, and in fact, the students don't even have air conditioning in the dorm in Boston in the middle of the summer, but for we old people, they brought in air conditioners and put them in the windows, you know, with wood and everything, so it'd be a little better. And it was not fancy at all. And in fact,
they do beat Harvard in something.
Well, we might be at the same level, dormitory-wise.
Okay.
But it wasn't anything to brag about. And they have the same kinds of problems that we do at PUC at Harvard. We had one of the lecturers is a man by the name of Richard Light, who has a book called How to Make the Most Out of College, which I read way before, you know, I became a college president. It was so good. He spent some time with us, and then he came and had dinner, and I was at a table with about 10 people where he talked about the best-selling book in the history of the Harvard University Press. And they have some of the same challenges we do, like how do you get students to work with advisors in a better way? And they've given some of the best advice on how to have good student advisor relationships. So they're dealing with some of the same issues that we are at Harvard.
So are, like, say, student-teacher ratios lowered then?
In some classes probably, but I'm guessing they'd be much larger in others. We have a very good student-teacher ratio here. You know, it's about 1 to 15, which is excellent.
Yeah.
So it depends on the class. You know, some of these big public universities, they have these huge classes with hundreds of students and a professor and a television somewhere, and you're in another room and you never see the professor. You basically have a teaching assistant who's a graduate student that basically is the one that meets with you. And then you have small classes. There's a variety of experiences.
So, Harvard, that begs the question, did you play hooky?
I never once played hooky.
Seriously?
I tell you, in fact, I went to all the extra classes even. I was just soaking up all of this knowledge that I could. It was pretty neat though, you know. You know, I got my PhD in 1990, so that's been 17 years ago. And I'm now a college president. I never thought I would ever be a student again. And for 2 weeks, we were students, living in the dormitory, eating all our meals together. carrying our backpacks to walk 15 minutes to class from our dormitories, and then sitting in lectures from 8:30 until 4 every day, and then about 80 pages of reading every night to get ready for class the next day.
Wow.
So, no, I didn't. I took full advantage.
Good, good. Well, hey, and, in the classroom of life, you're always learning. Me, I'm always at recess. Now, I got final question. Let's talk about enrollment and PR. Now, I understand, first of all, that PR has actually become a new department. Do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
You know, we were looking last spring at some of the issues of trying to get our public relations department and our enrollment services department to work together more closely. Mm-hmm. We like to use this language that in higher ed we're all in separate silos. And our departments are in all silos, and often they don't talk to each other. And we were sitting around the administrators, and I suddenly said to them, you know, what if we were to ask Julie Lee to be vice president and head up both of these areas so they can be, well, she's our new vice president for marketing and enrollment services, but then she was the public relations director. And I said, what if we were to ask her to do both things and combine the department together? The next issue was, she said, you know, I really need to be next to enrollment services, and that would mean moving out of where they were. And
already in their powers. Huh?
Well, and the counseling center was already in the space there, but the counseling center was delighted to move to PR. And then the problem was air conditioning. That's a hot building. Mm-hmm. But we have the director of our physical plant who goes to surplus all the time and buys a lot of course, people think junk, right? He had bought 2 big, huge air conditioners, so we were able to air condition that whole space. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So it's working well. So we're trying to have a very integrated branding and marketing plan that's closely integrated with enrollment services. And I think it's working great. She is young, creative, and hard worker, all of those things that we like to have in a new administrator.
Well, enrollment now then, what is being done to, well, first of all, what's being done to retain students here at PUC?
That's a good question. We have, of course, our TLC is focused a lot on trying to help students continue on with their learning experience here. And then we try to stay in touch with students and keep in communication. I was just working on a situation today where a parent wrote me an email this morning telling that their daughter was probably leaving, giving me the reasons. I immediately forwarded that on to several people so they could get to work on it and follow up. So it's a cooperative thing. The residence hall deans, the teachers, if they see signs of potential problems, the students themselves going into the counseling center, not for psychological counseling because that's completely confidential, but for career counseling, that kind of thing. So we all try to work together.
It sounds like, yeah, there's this holistic group working together with our powers combined kind of mentality.
We have a lot of improvement, but we have in the last 2 years really tried to begin focusing on that.
Excellent. Well, thank you, President Osborn, for taking this time to be with us.
Good to see you.
And please tune in next week.